As I was listening to Raj, so I said that probably a very key phrase which I think will stick with me for say 1 month down the line. So, but most of the time we give more information than the actual than what we are expected to do.
That's right. So what was your takeaway from Roger introducing
He
himself?
said that I am global procurement lead. Okay,
That's what he said about himself?
Yes, I think that he started with, but then he has given some more details, which I think I might not remember after 1 month or so, but it's global procurement.
But you remember that.
That is something which stands out from the entire business.
So, that's very good. If you only have a little bit of time, you want people to, one, remember your name, so they can look you up later. Two, remember what area you're in. So, Karen Kang Branding, Roger Global Procurement. What's your name?
My name is Ahmad.
And what's your area?
Business.
Business what?
Business intelligence.
Business
intelligence.
Oh, intelligence, business intelligence, that's great. So, so think through, I mean, we can do all this differentiation stuff later, but if they can't remember your name and why they didn't call you, then we're not doing our job. So if you look at this very quickly, this is just a guide. It is not like casting concrete. You can only do this in 10 minutes or 30 seconds or whatever. But generally, an elevator pitch is about, if you had an opportunity, say, on an elevator, between floors, to talk to someone who might be helpful to you in your career, or you just want to get to know, and you exchange greetings and your name and what you're doing, do you have an elevator pitch? I mean, do you have a few things, a few talking points that you can use? Because really an elevator pitch should be about talking points. It should not be a canned speech that you memorize, that you say exactly the same thing to everybody, because there are different contexts for things. So we have to remember the art of conversation. Most often, when we're at a networking event, it's very much a two-way street. You're not given a stage to talk endlessly for, even 3 or 4 minutes. You introduce yourself, and other people introduce, and, you ask a question, they ask a question, and hopefully you're as good a listener as you would like other people to be listening about you, and you have a curiosity about them. It can't just be about you. You need to be curious about the world and curious about the people that you meet. And all the people that you meet may not, at the outset, seem like they have anything going that could ever help you in life. Still, be interested. Because I can't tell you how many times I've been to these events where I met someone and, they were totally in this other area. And then 3 months later, sometimes 3 years later, they would remember me and, let's say, connect me with someone or have a project or whatever. You never know where all of this will take us. Just like you never know who might be your boss tomorrow. I mean, people who perhaps reported to you before are suddenly your boss. So treat everyone with respect, show interest in everyone and what they're doing. And I think that a word about networking, there are all these things now where people talk about speed networking and stuff. I'm not really into all of that. I see too many people go to networking events. It seems like all they try to do is to distribute as many business cards as they can. What is the value in that? Where is the human engagement? It's really when you engage with people on a human level and people like you that actually good things happen. Raise your hand. When was the last time you bent over backwards to help someone you didn't like? One person, 2 people. Sometimes you have to because of your job. But human nature being what it is, we tend to help people that we feel some kind of connection with. And so if you can establish a connection, it doesn't just have to be work, like losing power. And it doesn't just have to be work. It can be on a social level. It can be that, both your kids are on the same soccer team. or you went to the same school, or you both like boating or skiing or whatever it is. There can be these connections made. And that's why it's so great on LinkedIn, and you can read some of the stuff, or you can look people up on Google and find out, they have other interests. And you can find out where your connections are, where you kind of intersect and have commonality. It's that commonality that can really help. So, in terms of messaging, you have to be clear and compelling. People are only going to remember one or two things about you. So what is it going to be? I worked with 2 city council candidates in Palo Alto. Both of them women, both of them had never held elected office. The first one was one of the top vote getters. The second one, I wrote her up in my book, was the highest vote getter out of a field of 13. Never held elected office, never even had an appointed office. She was not known in the political community at all. She was not a known brand. But yet, she had so many things going for her. And when we sat down to figure out her strategy, because I was her campaign manager, what are the 1 or 2 things that you really want to be known for? And we were able to put it together, and we were able to do our market research, really find out what the residents, citizens of Palo Alto were looking for. Now, as you know, Palo Alto is a pretty sophisticated community. You can't just waltz in and say, I want to be on city council and get elected. You have to do your homework. And just like she had to do her homework and package herself in an authentic way. I mean, she had like probably 30 different things she wanted to talk about. And I go, no, you can't do that. People don't have the bandwidth. Once you get on council, you can do these other things. But let's talk about maybe 2 or 3 buckets at most. But when you first introduce yourself, be known as one bucket, and that you can always, like on a panel or what have you, expand. So it's the same thing with you. What is your one thing, the main pillar that you're going to be known for? Or think of it in terms of meta branding. So you have an umbrella. What is that overall umbrella? And then you may have 3 pillars under that overall umbrella. But what is that overall umbrella about? And then package things in a way that people can digest and remember. Any questions about this before we move on? So we've gone through positioning, we've gone through messaging.
A related question, you mentioned about connecting various points. In a business setting, especially an interview setting, at what point do you try to connect in the beginning at a professional level? In other words, you say, oh yeah, I have a little bit of a drive, so on and so forth, and then move on to the whatever is there to discuss. Or you try to connect right up front.
So he asked about, like in an interview setting, do you bring up anything like, the weather today or your drive-in or whatever? Think of it as being on a freeway on-ramp. I mean, you want to get on the freeway, but you have to start accelerating. There's an on-ramp on that. You just can't jump into the freeway going 70 miles an hour. It's the same way with people. So whether it's a job interview, whether it's a networking event, there is a certain amount of social banter that takes place before you jump into business. Almost any culture, whether it's having tea before you talk business, having a meal before you talk business, whatever. There's a bit of social banter that takes place. And I was working with one technology CEO, and he had been, pretty successful, but he was up against a wall at this point in his career or his development. And part of it had to do with his disdain for doing the social banter, the warming up. He just wanted to jump into business, and everything else, didn't matter. That was the only thing of value. And I had to convince him that no, this other stuff has tremendous value. This is where you're just kind of, eyeing someone and trying to figure out, do I like this person? Do I think I could work with them? Do I trust them? That is extremely important. And so, but you have to be authentic. You can't like be this forced personality, or people can read that from a mile away. And if you don't have the capacity today to be truly interested in the other person, well, that's an area in terms of your brand improvement that you really need to work on. And maybe you have to work with a coach on something like that. Because people see disdain in your eye when they're talking to you, and all you're doing is looking at your watch and saying, this is a waste of time. People understand that. So it was something that he had to work on. I know he's not alone. I think engineering minds are kind of that way. They want to cut to the chase. They want to really understand what's the framework, where do they fit in, what do they have to do, and they don't want the other stuff. And I'm saying the other stuff's very important. When I talk about cake and icing, that icing is very important.
With that said, though, I think that's having the social smarts on what a person really wants to discuss, because I guess I can tend to be reading a person whether they want to socialize a little bit, but yet there are times with me, this is business, and let's just get, what do you need from me? Let's cut to the chase, let's do that, and move on. Because otherwise, I don't need all the false little niceties, pretend you're going to be nice to me, that you know me, when you're really coming to something to me for a business person, that we can actually do business together and succeed. I don't need to know all that other stuff.
I think that may be true more in a company, and someone who knows you comes in your office and they go, gotta have this by Monday, and maybe they have to do the niceties or whatever. Sure, that happens a lot. But in a very large company that I consult to, Fortune 100 company, I work with a number of executives. And I was doing personal branding, consulting, and coaching to a number of these female executives. And they wanted to know why it was that these other guys got the promotion and they didn't. And they started talking about the Old Boys Network. I said, you know what the Old Boys Network really is? It's a social club. Hello? These are people that you went to college with, or you hang out at the golf course with, or whatever. It's a social club. And they socialize. And they have a basis beyond business by which to relate to one another. And when women don't have that, they're at a disadvantage. So I told these women, when you have social events at the company, do you hang around for those? Oh, gotta get back to the children, blah, blah, blah. I said, I understand that. And I have 3 kids, and I totally understand wanting to spend time with your children. But if you are serious about getting ahead in your company, instead of complaining about it, then actually, prioritize your time. Put it on your schedule. Say come in later or something like that. If you're an executive, you have flexibility in your schedule. Be with your kids in the morning, but do those social things that work later on, because you need to develop that relationship. People need to feel comfortable with you before they promote you or get you on their team. People have to decide. You're not going to have to hang with this person for a while. Do I trust them? Do I like them? All those kinds of things. It's not just your skills, because these women were delivering the numbers big time. And they're going, how come I'm not being promoted? I said, when you go to your office and you shut the door and you just get down in your spreadsheet and you are calling your team members and saying, gotta deliver, and you're not doing the other stuff, then you're not executive material. Mm-hmm. You're a doer, but you're not a leader. So there's lots of doers in the world, and there's a lot of people who can't make that transition from being a doer to a leader. And they're so comfortable being a doer because they've gotten all these pats on their backs for delivering. But when it comes time to making that decision about who they're going to promote, they're not on the short list. So they need to shift how people think about them. And one of the easiest ways for them to shift how people think about them is actually go to some of those social events and actually be social. Is that too much to ask? People are human beings. Any other questions?
Yes. So, Karen, I've known you, of course, from so just think of her. I knew Regis McKenna from my company, Versada. Now, I hear she's going to speak at SIPA, organization I know, Kang, Regis McKenna, personal branding. Why am I here? So one comment I would like to make is, even when you have gotten a job, to succeed in that job, you have to really brand yourself in that new job. So my personal situation, which is the reason I decided to come and meet her. Everybody is going up.
Okay.
It's time up.
It's time now.
It's 8
Figures
p.m.
out.
No, I think there is no activity, so it's just.
So just to finish my comment, so I've been a mentor, advisor, investor, and so on in companies, right? So people have brought me to be known to help others finding funding and finding teams and that kind. So just recently, somehow or the other, I was appointed in a different role from United Nations, Obama and so on. And they want me to lead creating a conference for an entirely different crowd. The crowd is 15 to 40-year-old children of ultra net worth individuals, to motivate them to do much better with all their resources they have, 50 million, 100 million, 200 million kids. Now, I'm supposed to attract them. I'm supposed to now get them motivated. So I said, in some way, I have to let them know that I can do that. Right? Same person in this new job, I still have to create a little bit of branding to make sure they will listen to me. Right?
That's
really
an
what it is.
excellent example. Thank you very so much.
So
I'm just-
congratulations for
Thank you very much. So I told you I would talk about LinkedIn just a little bit. So here are a couple of LinkedIn excuse me, examples. So the typical thing that you find on LinkedIn is, there's a title, there's a headline part that people see at the very beginning. And old kind of titles are like partner, ABC partner. Now you can still have your title there, but you also have to add descriptive stuff. Or you can just go with the descriptive stuff depending on what your goal is. But these are better titles or headlines. So instead of just partner, ABC partners, especially if that thing isn't as well known, partner in major accounting firm, corporate audit, expert, speaker. So bean counters are not necessarily known for their communication skills. So that's a good differentiation. If you put speaker out there and you are in accounting. Next example, programmer. I just made all these up. Programmer, apps are us. But if you, instead of just saying programmer, and you put front-end web developer, mobile user experience, isn't that a lot richer? Don't you know what that person does and what their value is? CEO, little company Inc. Okay, we have that all over the valley. People put up on their LinkedIn profile that they're the founder and CEO of some company you've never heard of. But if you put something like cloud software entrepreneur, social CRM, big data analytics, if people were interested in that, they would reach out to you. So those kind of things are so much more powerful. Intern would be limited. What if you put marketing intern, customer research, social media campaigns? I mean, I just hired Pinky 6 months ago. Pinky, raise your hand. 6 months ago from LinkedIn, a LinkedIn ad. So my ad went out, and at the beginning it was for a marketing intern. She's now a marketing associate because she's so good. But a paid marketing internship. I got over 220 resumes within 2 weeks. I did actually turn the ad off. It was inundated because there were so many good resumes out there. And what I found is that LinkedIn, at least for a hiring manager, independent like me, came in. These applications would come in, and would just have the title, and then maybe a little line for current, and maybe a little line for past. That's all you see. If there's nothing in those few little lines, when this resume comes in, you're not going to read the cover letter, you're not going to open the resume up. I've been there, I can tell you. At the beginning, I spent a minute looking at these things. Toward the end, it was almost milliseconds. Open it up, read it, pass on it. And the other thing was the cover letter. A lot of people say, oh, cover letters are passe, you don't have to write a cover letter. Let me tell you, less than 10%, maybe 10% of people wrote a cover letter out of all those people. It was probably less than 10%. The cover letter alone differentiated them because it said to me that they were willing to put the time in to customize something to say to me and actually knew something about my business. So even if I didn't read the cover letter that carefully, just the fact that they had it was differentiable. So, but I wouldn't open the cover letter until I looked and there was something that was compelling up there. And then, only then did I look at the resume. And you expect the cover letter and the resume to be matched. So if they customized cover letter and their resume wasn't customized, that was kind of a disconnect for me. Now, Pinky did a great job writing cover letter, totally customizing her resume, and I knew that she did it, but I still like the fact that she did, to the job description. That really impressed me. And when she came in, she knew what branding case was all about. She'd read nearly all of my blog posts. You know, it's that kind of thing. She'd done her research. And she found someone in my ecosystem, in LinkedIn, to call me and say, Pinky had worked with me in the past. She's terrific. You should hire her. I didn't really know this guy because, you know, sometimes you meet people briefly and you link in with them, and I didn't really know him. But the fact that he was in my LinkedIn ecosystem said something, and was the only one of all the people who were applying for jobs who had someone in my ecosystem saying, hire this person. So that carried weight. So know that those kinds of things carry weight.
How realistic is this? That you have to customize your resume for every job? I mean, your branding is one brand, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But there may be certain characteristics that people are, or certain attributes, or certain skill set, or software, or whatever, that you know that they're asking for. And if you just have a generic resume, I mean, my feeling is figure out the job or jobs that you really want and go for it. Commit to it 100%. I would rather see you do that than send your resume out to 500 companies and never get one interview. If you put the work in to really customize things, you will get better results than just doing the scattershot thing. Because people will know that you didn't put any time in, that you don't even know who the company is. That is not very impressive. I mean, people I would call that I actually set up a telephone interview with. I go, this is Kang from Branding Pays. Branding who? It's like, yeah. So, anyway. So we talked about this metaphor, bake the cake, then ice it. And I came up with this metaphor because branding can be very confusing. People don't know what branding is all about. Simple metaphor where the cake is your rational value, your job, your functional value, your expertise, your positioning, if you will. And the icing is your emotional value, your personality, your sense of humor, your likability, your trust factor, your vision, your whether you're charismatic or not. This is, when cake and icing comes together, that's when you have strong branding. So what are your favorite, consumer brands? Quickly, consumer brand. It's not a test. Apple.
Not in that HP house.
Samsung.
HP.
Okay. HP. No, that's fine. Okay, we have the Coca-Cola Classic, so we'll get out of the technology words here. Why is Coca-Cola Classic one of your favorite brands?
I'll refer to the example.
The real thing.
The brand was so important in that classic. When the new Coke came in, I actually used different terminology. They wanted,
Yeah.
a lot of people wanted Coca-Cola Classic to come back. And the way they brought it back was calling it classic.
So you can see with Coke, if you really just boil it down to its generic essence, product essence, it's a cola. There's lots of colas out there. Why is Coke number one?
Polar
there-
bear Santa.
Pardon me?
The brand polar bear Santa, they're, like he was saying, it's all around the market that they're targeting.
That's right. Coke now says, you know, you open a bottle of Coke or a can of Coke and you open happiness. Now, oh, I want happiness, I'm gonna go buy me some Coke. So it's that kind of thing. It's like Nike. You know, what is Nike selling? Are they just selling footwear, athletic footwear? No. What are they selling? Well, they might be selling health, but I think it's really this feeling of, you know, I can do it. Do it, Nike, you know, just get out there, just do it. And that you feel empowered and you can, you know, and you're a winner, you know, you can be like, well, I was gonna say, well, way back in the past, Tiger Woods. But that's a really good example of the dynamism of brands. The brands can go up and the brands can go down. And you have to be your brand all the time. You can't just be the brand when television cameras are running. So that gets us to brand strategy. So we did positioning, messaging, we're on number 3, brand strategy. And brand strategy, and I'm not going to go through the template that we have here, but you need to define your brand strategy. And how do you do it? So these 4 things are all driving toward your brand promise. Just like Coke says that their brand promise is, you know, a certain flavor and a certain feeling that you're going to have when you open Coke. Starbucks, you're going to have your coffee in a certain way, and you're going to have that same ambiance in the Starbucks store. You know, I remember when for HP, it was always that, you know, I always bought HP printers because I never had to worry about paper jams and the ink always worked, and I just didn't want that, and I deserved it, right? So it's that kind of feeling. So core values, start with core values because you have to brand from the inside out. It has to be authentic. What do you believe in? So connect with what your core values are. Figure out what your strengths are. You know, the things that you're really good, your expertise, all of that. And your personality. You know, what do you have going for you in terms of your personality? Are you an up person? Are you a down person? Are you somewhere in between? You know, how do you dress in terms of your image? How do you come across? I mean, how would people describe you in terms of your image and your personality? Think about that. You might actually reach out to people. So we have a brand assessment in the book. It's also on our website at brandingpace.com/resources. I encourage you to use that brand assessment, send it out to, say, 5 people who know you, and get some objective feedback about what your brand's all about. If you think your brand is a certain thing and the brand perceptions about you are different, or if they corroborate you, that is immensely helpful. Who knows about Tony Shea of Zappos? A lot of you. Who's ever used Zappos? A number of people. I love Zappos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Zappos VIP to my husband's chagrin. Delivering happiness. Boy, when those shoe boxes come in, I'm a happy camper. But the delivering happiness is not just about, you know, the shoes or the apparel that you get from Zappos. It's about the customer experience. And they just have a fantastic customer experience. You know, I had to call them on a couple of occasions. And believe me, I was smiling after working with their customer service people. It was just so delightful. I don't know how they retain these people. Well, they retain the people because they have a great corporate culture. They have a very employee-empowered, employee-centric, not employee-centric because they're customer-centric, but employee culture. And delivering happiness is what Tony does, not only in terms of his business and his business model and his ideas about business, but also on a personal level. So I don't know if you've seen what he's doing like in Las Vegas, but he's taken a bunch of downtown lighted Las Vegas and bringing in entrepreneurs. He bought up a whole bunch of acreage, brought in all these entrepreneurs, and they're creating businesses. So he's helping the entrepreneurs, but he's helping Las Vegas to come back in this blighted area. So he is an authentic brand in his company and outside. And even if he left Zappos, and heaven help if he ever leaves Zappos, but even if he left Zappos, he would have a personal brand because his brand transcends his company. And I would encourage all of you to have a brand that transcends your company because, you know, things change. We have 20 different jobs, and you know, if you're an entrepreneur, you may have multiple companies as serial entrepreneurs. So just remember that. So what's your cake and icing? You're not going to be able to read this because many of you are too far away, but this is a leadership branding scorecard. And you can get it at brandingpiece.com/resources. It's not in the book. I actually had a friend of mine, a CEO, entrepreneur, who read the book in its early stage and said, too many ideas, too many models, take this out. I took it out, and now that's what everyone wants. So you can go get it. My next version of the book will have it. But basically, this is just some of the things that companies are looking for in this new economy. So there's 10 things. The first 5 are really in the cake or rational value area. The next 5 are more in the cake or emotional value area. And what are they? So the first one is being a strategic thinker, seeing the big picture, framing issues quickly. This is incredibly important. You know, what people are looking for in companies now is for people to be entrepreneurial, to be able to solve these big problems, and you need to be strategic about it. So if you don't have a brand that's a strategy, that's something that you really need to work on. And there's so many ways to get to be more strategic, to be seen as more strategic, and to actually evidence that. Do we have any ideas here? How can you be seen as being more strategic in your company?
Similar to the gentleman who says he has a variety, you're an investor, but then you do have a services business. And when you're saying we're going to develop possibly different resumes, so I do believe you're correct. I do have one LinkedIn profile, but are you trying to say that we have a strategy as far as the value we bring regardless of our skill set, in the sense, I'm known as a finance expert in many areas because I did that for 25, 30 years, but then I also do engagement and wellness, and then also a children's book author. So my persona when I'm meeting with my fellow authors and illustrators is quite different when I'm meeting with financial professionals versus HR and the things that I do with volunteering. So I think strategic thinker can be different depending on what your audience is. Is that what you're trying to say when we're looking at those, I guess, fine-tuned resumes?
I think what I'm saying is there's a number of attributes that companies are looking for in terms of their leaders or future leaders. And certainly being a strategic thinker is one of them. The others are being an inspiring manager, making that transition from doer to actually inspiring performance from the team, having a unique vision or big idea. That's incredibly important if you want to get up into the executive ranks. What is your vision? What is your big idea? What can you be known for? So the CEO I'm working with in San Francisco, we're developing a whole thought leadership platform for her, and she will be known for that. Sheryl Sandberg, who just wrote Lean In, who's the COO of Facebook, is also known as someone in this whole movement trying to elevate women and provide more opportunities, both from a standpoint of the companies, being able to figure out how they can encourage that and encourage that diversity, but also women themselves. So there's different kind of platforms. It doesn't have to just be in that one technical domain that you're in. It could be a management thing. It could be, how you give back. It could be so many different areas. But let's go through this quickly because we're running out of time here. So clear, persuasive communication is key. The ability to present and to be able to present persuasively. Influencers will advocate for you. It's so important to be able to work the ecosystem and have those strong ecosystem relationships. People will judge who you associate with and who are your friends and who is really pulling for you. For instance, when I wrote my book, one of the first 2 people I went to were Regis McKenna and Jeffrey Moore. They were incredibly important influencers in my ecosystem. Imagine me writing a book, having a partner, Regis McKenna, and not having these two men, you know, in my corner, if you will. So think through, because people will check out, they will do due diligence on you, and if you don't have people who should be in your corner, then you kind of look silly or not very credible. Okay, so the next 5 are more in the emotional value area. So emotional intelligence, you know, empathy, cultural understanding. More and more, you know, IQ will get you the job, IQ and skills, and emotional intelligence, or EQ, is going to help you get promoted. So all of us can work on those skills. And then in terms of presence, you know, how do you project confidence? Do you command respect when you walk into a room? A lot of times our body language can just speak volumes. If you see someone kind of walking in with their head down, or while everyone else is talking and doing the on-ramp in terms of the social banter, and you're just, you know, hanging back, you know, leaning against the wall, you know, that says buckets. So, you know, we want our leaders to be able to engage with all kinds of people and feel comfortable doing it. Attractive and likable personality. I can't say enough about that. Now, we all can't be extroverts. And there's certainly a place for, you know, quiet, more introspective people. But that being said, hopefully you have a kind of personality that you know, in some way draws people to you. I mean, I'm drawn to certain quiet people who, they don't always say things all the time, but when they speak up, you know, it's really good stuff. 9, social skills, being able to connect and converse easily. Now, a lot of people say, I'm really shy, and this is not something that I can do well. So think about those networking events. If you're one of those people that's nursing a drink, kind of in the corner, trying to blend into the wall and hoping that no one sees you, take it upon yourself to think, I'm going to be the host tonight. And instead of just having all the thoughts and insecurities, you know, pointed at you, you are projecting yourself out. You are giving to the world and saying, how can I help this person and this person get to know one another? How can I introduce someone? How can I make someone else who may also feel awkward and insecure, you know, feel better? So if you put your intention outside of yourself, you'll start thinking about how uncomfortable you feel. So I really encourage you to give that a try. And finally, a professional modern image. I'm talking about hair, I'm talking about wardrobe, I'm talking about accessories. You know, I mean, simple stuff like, you know, don't get your hair cut at Supercuts. It looks like it was done at Supercuts. I mean, actually invest in yourself, because people will look at you. And, you know, is this person investing in themselves? Do they believe in themselves? And once you do that kind of stuff, you will have more confidence. I assure you that you will. It's like, you know, people who have gone through, I'm not saying that you have to go and have the big 100% makeover, but there are certain things that you can do. And when you do them, if you also do this other stuff where you think through your strategy and messages and everything, and you combine it with, you know, changing a little bit about your personal appearance, people, sometimes that's the trigger that people need to take a second look at you. So I did that with an executive at one of these big companies, and she kept on being passed over. And she did some things. She just kind of up-leveled her dress and her hair and how she looked. And people took a second look at her. But we combined it with content and real stuff. We just did not do a cosmetic fix here. If you just try to do a cosmetic fix, it is not sustainable. So you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig, right? I don't think any of you are pigs. So let's look at portable branding. Do monitor your online brand. Do help influencers to brand you. Don't just leave it up to the fates to come up with words about yourself. Actually put things like in your profile, in your online profiles. If someone's going to introduce you to someone, send them an email in advance with a few words. This is what, you know, this is how I'm talking about myself today, or this is the new area that I'm into. And then, are you engaging? Because social media is all about engagement. So if you're just lurking on Twitter or Facebook, Jump in, engage. I mean, when people actually, comment on a post or retweet something, people like that. And once you start engaging, then you'll find other people wanting to engage with you because people like to engage with engagers. So here's a few ideas. This is one of the final slides to brand yourself. So try to be an expert. Don't just try to be a generic something. Figure out what is that area that you can own. And then leverage that content. If you're developing content around something, whether it's on a blog, whether it's doing a paper, whether it's doing a presentation, there's all kinds of ways to share it. We have SlideShare, we have, so many YouTube, so many different ways to get that content out there. And if you think about education, if you put that hat on and say, education is what I'm trying to do, then you want to educate as wide an audience as possible. It's one of the reasons why I wrote this book. I had a really good consulting business, and I actually took time to write the book because I wanted to share this methodology with so many people. And, if you think about it, that's what your role is all about. Don't just think about my next job here, my next thing. Think about how you can give back to the world in terms of your knowledge, your expertise, your contacts, what have you. And you need ecosystem validation. So we talked about the ecosystem, and you want to have those influencers recommend you, endorse you. That kind of third-party endorsement is where you get your credibility. And you can figure out what your ecosystem is, who those people are, because there's a 90-10 rule. 90% of the market is influenced by 10%. And when we're talking about social media, it's probably less than 1%. So you don't have to talk to everybody. You just have to talk to the right people. You have to talk to the right people when. And then give back. I just love the fact that we're in this new age now where so many people are talking about conscious capitalism, conscious business, giving back on social media, sharing things for free all over the place. That's what it's all about today. So figure out how you can give back. And then finally, smile. Just turn to your neighbor right now, shake his or her hand, and smile at them. Say hi. Right now, press them back.
Come on, get up, Great.
So, the energy level just went up 100%. Did you feel that? Did you feel kind of some electricity going on? It's amazing. It's amazing when you smile at people. So, look at your LinkedIn profile. Are you smiling back at those people that are looking at your profile? It's smiling is like virtually free, right? And it's that you get icing immediately. When people, this engineer came up to me and she goes, "Oh no, I'm okay. I have no icing." And I said, "Smile." We shook hands and went, "There, you have some icing now." Build on that. So you can guide your brand or be branded by others. And I hope that you will feel that you can take charge of your brand and go for it. Thank you so much. Some of you have already gotten books, but we do have books back there. And I would like to offer you, if you want to leave me your business card, we'll send you top 10 tips for professionals and branding, and put you on our free newsletter list. So Pinky has my card, and she will also accept your card as well. Are there any questions? I know it's really late, so we can just maybe do one or two.
We have 5 more minutes if you have any questions.
Nobody has like reading my question. What I was asking you was, to me, the way you presented it, branding is trying to project something image. And if I'm trying to sell my service business while trying to attract investment for products, I brand myself.
You did last.
Okay, I hope you all enjoyed this event and hope to see you at another SIPA event. The book signing will be at the back. And please, I need the feedback form so that you don't make the same mistakes again.